Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTN. It's 6:31 p.m. UTC, 9th of March 2025, which marks the beginning of Season 2 of the Sunday League here in NLRL. Once again, I am Regan Clark, and you join us on the exciting opening round here at the iconic Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Nestled in Stavelot, Wallonia, Belgium, Spa is a circuit that has encapsulated the hearts and minds of motorsports fanatics for over a century. The longest FIA Grade 1 track in history, Spa is 4.3 miles long, that's 7.004 kilometres, and consists of 19, sometimes bordering on 20 corners, the most recognisable of which turns 3 through 5 at Eau Rouge and Raidillon. We're watching on board at the moment with Tyler Vermaak, the number 5 with Ferrari, starting off the opening laps of free practice. And it is looking to be a very exciting season indeed. Taking us out of Season 1, we're going to look at some of our previous winners in that season. Of course, 8 rounds in that championship. Wesley Kuiper took over 50% of the wins by the end of the season. Actually, I think it worked out to 50% there, winning in rounds 1, 3, 6 and 7. Louis Baptiste winning in Silverstone, Melvin Milliston winning in the Red Bull Ring, Martin van Manen in Indianapolis, and Hayden Puttock winning the round finale at the Nürburgring. But ultimately it would go in favour of none of these drivers in regards to the championship. Taking a look at constructors as well, McLaren dominating the championship with BMW, Ford and Aston Martin sharing in a single victory between the three of them. Ultimately, as I said, never went in the direction of either of those three. If we go and find the driver in question, it actually went in the swing of this one here, the number 119 of Christian Lebay, last season's champion with Aston Martin, returning to reprise his role behind the wheel of the V12 Vantage here for Season 2 of the Championship. It is a mighty, mighty pleasure to see this car race again and to see this driver back in competition, returning on the highs of his championship win back in Season 1 to bring us the thunder for Season 2. As we watch, he crosses the line now as well. Vermaak leading the timing charts for our first flying laps of free practice. Taking a look into the qualifying predictions coming up later down the line. Only 7 minutes left in free practice before we get on to qualies. We stay on board here with Christian Lebay. Looking at our qualifying predictions, it's looking to be very close. Melvin Milliston returns to the front row yet again for this season with a 2:16.185. Wesley Kuiper joins him on the front row, a 2:16.572. These are all predicted times taken off of data from Simbot in the sessions leading up to today's event. Hayden Puttock makes third with Great Britain in the 2:16.590 bracket, just ahead by a tenth there of Diman Ivanov from Bulgaria in the Aston Martin. He's fourth with a 2:16.692. Jason Bush from the USA drives for Lexus in this championship, currently with the 5th fastest time projected in qualifying today, a 2:16.727. Harry J from Ireland with the 6th fastest, a 2:16.968. Axel Cassier from Belgium, 7th fastest predicted for qualifying with a 2:17.185. Hayden Prodger from the United Kingdom, 2:17.267. James Mason also from the UK, a 2:17.586. Rounding out our top 10 predictions, Ben Cheeseman, also from Great Britain, 2:17.757. We're still on board here with Christian Lebay, last season's champion. You can see the gold star right next to the Canadian flag. He's one of 3 Canadian drivers to comprise the brand new and newly formed Malois race team, based off of our sponsors Malois Transport Incorporated. You'll hear more about them in a moment's time. You stay on board here. We'll get a comprehensive rundown of the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps over the course of the next couple of laps. All 20 corners in all, showcased by our star drivers here today. See there, Marshall 88 Moss joining us for the first time for this round of the championship. Good day to you as well. It is a fine evening here in the UK from our commentary box, and it looks to be a very nice, bright, sunny day here in Wallonia, Belgium for this round of the championship. Very favourable conditions, a far cry from what we saw last time we covered Spa here. That was for the 6 hours of Spa in the NLRL Console Endurance Series, where it was absolutely sodden with rain. Barely any grip available. Total contrast to that today. Lebay down towards the line at the moment. We'll see what their first times in free practice are. Of course, seldom an indicator of where we'll find things in quali, but it's a good start. Down towards the line at 2:20.592 there by Christian Lebay. The V12 Vantage is going to have some problems over the course of this coming championship now that it's up against a reinvigorated crowd of drivers ready to match them in the field of motorsports. The V12 Vantage, of course, has always been on the older side of machinery, but they'll be joined by 2 Lexus RCFs, so there's definitely not alone when it comes to the retro machinery in the GT3 lineup. Lebay definitely being chief among them at the moment. You can see as well in chat is TMX Phantoms joining us for this round. So after that last lap, LeBay provisionally third fastest. Having a look around at the moment, topping the timing charts then is another of the retro machines. As I mentioned before, one of the two Lexuses competing in this leg of the championship. It's Jason Bush in the 333. At the moment looks to have been downgraded to the 33 on our timing charts there. As he passes, you can see there it's only 2 digits. Was signed up with the 333, has been subtracted a 3 for whatever unforeseen reasons. Nonetheless, the Lexus is on very, very solid form here in practice. And there's a real ensemble of new drivers to cover over the course of this practice session. We've got about 3 minutes to do so. So having a look around here, here's the second of our two Lexuses, rocking the same livery as Bush, is Robert Ogun, number 96, otherwise goes by VSR Twiglet in the VSR Season 7 Championship. We've also had the pleasure of covering here on TRTN. Stay on board with us for next week as we go to Alton Park in the wet for their next round of the championship. It's looking to be very exciting here. Robert Ogun now making his debut into NLRL. Going around the field, there's Axel Cassier, who we mentioned on the timing charts is predicted inside the top 10 for qualifying. They hail from Belgium, one of two Belgian drivers to sign for Ford, the other one being this driver on screen here, Francois Dubon, in the number 4, making their way round campus down towards Stavelot. We've also got Kevin Quain here, one of 3 Canadian drivers in this leg of the championship, and makes one of 3 heads of the Malois racing team, but they've just took a dive in at the gravel off of Melmedy. We also see here Dave Bond in the 107, another one of the new Mustangs in this championship. Looking here, Dave Bond from FGE as well, signing in from there. Alongside him is one of the new signings for BMW, and that being Callum Gray in the number 52, in the Ozium liveried car to his left-hand side. There's Carmelo Abate, and this was one of the most shocking decisions we saw made over the course of the off-season between 1 and 2. Abate, more commonly cited driving for Ferrari, is now made the sudden jump over to Porsche for this season. The number 26 is really going to find himself knee-deep in trouble to sort of work out some of the technical issues with that Porsche. It's not an easy car by any stretch of the imagination, but we've seen the capacity of driver Carmelo Abate has proven himself to be over the course of Season 1, so I have no doubt in my mind we could see some very interesting results indeed out of the Italian runner-up of last season's championship this time around. Also see there one of the new Porsches as well. That's Latchok Richard from Hungary, the number 19 in the pit lane at the moment, and a wide ensemble of drivers from all around the world joining us for this round. We've also got another one here. This is Goan Malongre in the number 17. Very nice livery there, the grey, green and black. Very nice. Hayden Puttick now joins the championship out of the Aston Martin and into the Honda, in line with his recent move over to the Japanese firm across various different series over the course of the last month and a half. Puttick's move to Honda was previously set to be a move over to Bentley, but a sudden last-second change put Puttick back in the NSX for this championship. See here, Kyle Jenkins rocking a new livery in the 113, down across the line, provisionally 4 fastest here towards the end of free practice. Yellow flags out on the run out of the pit lane for the time being. Plenty of new drivers to be introduced to. Here's a new one as well. The number 1 Aston Martin of Diman Ivanov from Bulgaria, making their way down to Blanchimont corner. They're one of 3 Bulgarians to have joined from the same team, BGGT, or something should say along that line. A lot of consonants in there, but they're the Bulgarian GT team on Assetto Corsa Competizione. One of 3, the other being Marian Stoyanov and Venceslav Christov for this round of the championship. It's looking to be very exciting here. Plenty of new drivers looking to make names for themselves across the championship. A returning name as well here is Harry J on a reinvigorated drive in the number 56. We go and have a look here. Harry J was set to drive for BMW, has now moved back over to Ferrari. It was a sort of double on its head move there. Harry J will have to have that graphic updated over the course of this round. Bit of an unfortunate sign there that we got last second changes. He was a bit uncertain about the machine coming into this round. We've also got Melvin Milliston, who is currently yet to have set a time at the end of free practice, just readying himself up for qualifying. And you can just see just the wide expanse of the grid here towards the end of free practice. This is Callum Gray down towards the line again, the 52 out on track. A beautiful livery on that BMW. Plenty of BMWs in this round. We'll look at a distribution of the various manufacturers. The 2 most popular choices for this season have been BMW and Ford. Ford sharing in a grand total of 8 cars in this championship entered on SimGrid. BMW having a whopping 9 cars, make the most popular choice of manufacturer coming into Season 2 of the NLRL Sunday League. And I, for one, look forward to seeing what Bavaria's finest are capable of coming into this round. BMW only shared in 1 win as a manufacturer last season. That was at the hands of Melvin Milliston in round 4 at the Red Bull Ring. We'll see what they're capable of coming into Season 2. Looking at the calendar as well for Season 2, if we pull that up on our other monitor here and relay that towards you, it's looking to be a very exciting calendar for Season 2. Starting us off here in Spa, we'll be going over to Donington for round 2 of the championship. As we look across the pits here towards the end of free practice, we'll try and get on board with the next car towards the line, Diman Ivanov, number 1 with Aston Martin. So as I said, starting us off in Spa, we'll be going to Donington next week. The week after that, we head to Bathurst, then Kyalami, the Circuit of the Americas, Paul Ricard, Imola, Silverstone, Watkins Glen, and Monza to make a whopping 10-round championship here. 2 extra rounds from last season makes for 10 over 8. And it's looking to be very, very exciting coming into this round. What can Christian Lebay do then on the successes of his championship win? Can he hold the mantle up against a whole new grid of drivers here, among them just getting to the line second fastest at the end of free practice? Diman Ivanov in the number 1. Last driver towards the line then, the 52, and that's Callum Gray heading out of Kerber Paul Frere, turn 16 on his run to Blanchimont. So for Callum Gray, plenty to prove, just like many other new names to make their way onto the grid in this leg of the championship. We can also see new and returning faces alike. Plenty to talk about over the course of the coming qualifying sessions. So now we get on to the real meat and potatoes of this round for round 1 of the championship, our first qualifying session of the season. Looking here, it's a lively pit lane. People already getting out of the gates. We'll try and get on board with the first car to make their way off the field. You can see it's Milliston and Puttock. Following on their trails is Bush and Kuiper and Mason on their way down at the Kemmel Straight for the first time here. First qualifying session of the season. Melvin Milliston, of course, is predicted for pole position. We'll see if the Swede can deliver on his word coming into this round. Looking back at those predictions, it's not by a huge margin here. You're looking at only about 0.4 of a second between himself and the Flying Dutchman, Wesley Kuiper from the Netherlands. Hayden Puttock looking to make things strong with Honda coming into this round. Diman Ivanov and Jason Bush looking to challenge inside that top 5. It's looking very, very promising. Harry J's surprise move over to Ferrari may be what reinforced that 6th place. I think that was set in the 296 right before this round started. So his move away from BMW has definitely been reinforced by promises of better pace overall, especially in a qualifying scenario. Well, with 20 minutes on the mark here, we're just under 19 heading into the 18-minute bracket now. Time flies when you're having fun, and these drivers are about to have a lot of it, heading into the first qualifying of the championship. Stay on board with Milliston. You can really see moving up to behind him there, Puttock and Bush. Kuiper now slotting in behind the American in the Lexus. Things are looking to get very, very interesting. Before we get on to our first flying laps then, we'll recount some of the news coming through out of the world of motorsports this week. And of course, I think the newest of it is the news out of the British Touring Car Championship. 3-time champion Gordon Shedden returns to the BTCC in a contract signed with Toyota Gazoo Racing. It's looking to be a grand return for Shedden as he makes his way back into the sport for the 2025 championship. This comes amongst a myriad of moves around the paddock, the most recent of which before him being Josh Cook moving back to One Motorsports with the Honda Civic Type R. Heading on to our first flying laps then. We'll recount the rest of the news once our first times come in, as we're staying on board with Melvin Milliston for our first rundown here of Spa here in the Sunday League for Season 2. Heading down into Turn 1 then, La Source is an open hairpin right, very tight at the apex, opens out and gives us the first of many long runs in this circuit, and this is possibly the most iconic among them, running parallel almost millimetres from the pit wall. We go rocketing out of Turn 2, down through Turns 3, 4 and 5, Eau Rouge and Radion. These drivers will be taking it almost flat out here. You can see really pushing the envelope out through Turn 5, now barrelling out of Turn 6. Up the Kemmel Straight we go. Melvin Milliston will be doing speeds in excess of 155 miles per hour, looking over 160 before he gets onto the brakes. Here for Lacombe and Melmody, turns 7, 8 and 9. This is a very easy section of the track for drivers to slip up. It's also a very easy section of the track for drivers to gain position. You can see really wrestling the controls of that BMW down towards turn 10. Bruxelles, sometimes called Rivage as well, as an open hairpin right that goes downhill, taking us into the no-name corner at turn 11. Plenty of drivers have been caught out on the last race we covered here, but that was mostly due to this area of net zero grip that we get along that AstroTurf section on the right-hand side on the exit of turn 11. Bringing us to Pouhon then, turn 12. Formula 1 cars can take this absolutely flat out. Our GT drivers may not have the same sentiment here. There'll definitely be a lot of gusto going into that corner, but flat is a nigh impossibility for these cars. Down into turns 13 and 14 at Campus. First of two sharp corners in this section here. Campus down, out of turn 14 down to Stavelot, turn 15 into the curb of Paul Frere. That opens out as we exit sector 2 into sector 3. On our final run down towards the line here, we've only got, looking at it here, 4 more corners left to go. Turns 17 and 18 at Blanchemont here. Drivers will be taking this absolutely flat. And it's a real gamble getting as close as you can to that raised curb on the left-hand side to really trim the apex of the corner. Now, hard on the brakes down towards the bus stop chicane. Turns 19 and 20. Down towards the line goes Melvin Milliston. Let's bring up our timing charts on the left-hand side. Milliston across the line at the moment for the first fastest provisional time. Next across the line, Hayden Puttock. It doesn't look to be a valid one then, so Jason Bush takes the next time, only off by 0.02 of a second. Wesley Kuiper goes on to the fastest time of the session thus far. Then lining up behind them, James Mason off by 1.2 seconds. Scott Milbank and Tyler Vermaat cross the line next. Both of them forced down by Francois Dupont in the number 4. Kevin Quain, 6th fastest. So that puts Scott Milbank down another position. Diman Ivanov crosses the line with Aston Martin for the 5th fastest time on our first run through Spa. And this is only just going to keep stacking up here. Plenty more drivers on the horizon. Next towards the line goes Axel Cassier with Ford, the number 63, up to 4th fastest by 0.4 of a second. Where in which do we find our next times here? Christian Lebay just crossed the line in the Aston Martin for 9th fastest. Where's that going to place when the next car's crossed the line behind him? That puts him down a position. Corey Tidman goes up to 8th position. Where does it place him with a car right on his tail? Heading across the line. Doesn't look like his position got replaced, but out of La Source, he's going to have to pull it to one side and will most likely be back into the pits. Marian Stoyanov just crossed the line in the number 66 Aston Martin for the 14th fastest time. 3.7 seconds off the mark. Something had to have gone wrong during that flying lap. Carmelo Abate also crossed the line there, down to 12th, where briefly 11th. Now introduced to the fray is Harry J with Ferrari. Was previously set for a drive with BMW. A sudden last-second decision by J has proven quite successful, as he's now up into the top 5 after his first run here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Next towards the line is the number 107, and that's David Bond. Whether this be an outlap for Bond heading down towards the line. An interesting colour combination on that Mustang, I must say. Currently sit 24th, crossing the line there. It was an outlap for Bond in the 107. We'll be waiting to see what their next times look like at the end of this coming lap. The number 60, I believe that is the 68, I want to say, is heading towards the line at the moment. We'll see what time that stacks up as at the moment. That's Melvin Milliston heading towards the line in the BMW. Is it going to be pole position? Can he take it off the hands of Wesley Kuiper? Not this time around. Having a look further behind him, Jason Bush also hits for net neutral there across the line. Wesley Kuiper doesn't extend his lead in qualifying through that lap. Behind him, James Mason fails to make any more ground beyond 5th there, pushing Jay down to 6th at the end of that last lap in the number 413 K1 Esports BMW. Number 510 next across the line. We'll see what time that ranks up as, if it's still valid. Number 510 being Kostas Angelides from Greece, competing for BMW, one of 8 cars to field from Bavaria's finest. Kyle Jenkins 15th at the moment, Vermaat 14th, just having crossed the line now was Latchok Richard. They're down to 18th, as going ahead of them is Mike Wade with Nissan. A very precarious choice, I must say. One of two Nissans in this championship. Both Hayden Prodger and Mike Wade making the jump over to Nissan from Ford and Aston Martin, respectively. It's a very interesting choice, but is it going to be a choice that pays off in their favour? It makes the third sort of retro classification machinery to make its way into this championship behind the V12 Vantage and the Lexus RCF. Speaking of, that's the furthest up the order for the old cars. Jason Bush in 4th position in the number 33, signed up as the number 333 on our charts. We'll just have to roll with the punches on the graphical error. But they're only off that top 4 by just under 0.2 of a second between all 4 of them. That gap is very, very tight. Axel Cassier making a big leap towards that front row, only off Kuiper by 1/100th of a second. Wesley Kuiper starting to feel the pressure as he heads back down the Kemmel Straight on an outlap. We're curious to see here. This is Melvin Milliston. What is the call then by Milliston? Signed up as the number 997, has now changed to the number 68 for whatever reason. Heading down towards the line. Is he looking at the fastest lap? He's got to find only 1/10 of a second to make pole. Doesn't find it on this lap. You can see behind him there is Hayden Puttock and Jason Bush. Jason Bush goes up to the fastest time of this session thus far. That is brutal by the American. Looking at that there, that's the fastest lap, a 2:16.480 in the Lexus RCF. That is brilliant stuff. On his debut here to the Sunday League, Jason Bush in a Lexus RCF is showing up seasoned veterans like Wesley Kuiper and Melvin Milliston. Another remarkable performance is that out of Axel Cassier, just heading down towards the line now. The Belgian crossing the line remains in 3rd. Looking at it at the moment, we've still 10 minutes left in qualifying, so plenty of opportunities for these drivers to strike back. But that is a real precedent set by Jason Bush coming into this opening round of the championship. He is here to play and here to stay. So what is the rebuttal by Wesley Kuiper? A very frequent customer to that front row. He was predicted at 2nd, but he was predicted at 2nd to Milliston, not to Bush. So these are definitely odd circumstances that the Dutchman has seldom encountered over his career. It's rare that he's gone toe-to-toe with a car like the Lexus RCF. Typically, older machines like that rarely ever grace the front row. We are really making history today then in Season 2. First of a long, long time we've seen Lexus grace the front row like that. See as well, this is Melvin Milliston making his way down towards Stavelot. Looking to see where our next times are coming from. The 1:11 then, Wesley Kuiper starting another flying lap. We'll see where they catch up towards the end of this lap. The 1:07 is next towards the line then at the moment, that being David Bonds. We saw him start his flying lap. We'll see where the Mustang ranks up here towards the end of his flying lap. Currently 25th, having yet to have set a time. 1:07 towards the line goes David Bond. 19th at the moment then. So a bit of a struggle for Ford coming into this round, I must say. We've seen that their cars are quite spread apart here. Furthest up the order for Ford, we've just seen as well, Melvin Milliston goes up to the fastest time now with BMW. That's a wrong mill. Fastest lap then by Melvin Milliston. A 2:16.232 is a remarkable leap there. 2 tenths faster than Jason Bush. Nearly 7 tenths faster than Wesley Kuiper. See here, this is James Robertson making his way out of the no-name corner down towards Pouon. Yet to have set a time, currently 22nd. Wesley Kuiper also not far away from him at the time. We'll have a look in with the next car on a valid flying lap, that being the number 19, making their way towards the line as we speak. Trying to find here, Latchok Richard with Porsche, 5.2 seconds off the pace at the moment. We'll see what Latchok Richard can do as he gets towards the line with Porsche. It's a very big gamble to choose Porsche in any of these championships. Right now, you can see those teething issues I was speaking about really coming back to bite anyone using that car. Furthest up the order for Porsche at the moment is Carmelo Abate, and he's in 8th position in qualifying right now. Next to the line at the moment is the 52. That being Callum Gray with BMW. We'll see here as the BMW gets down towards the line. Number 52, Callum Gray. One of the most recent entries to this championship. Down to the line from out of turn 20 at the bus stop chicane, 21st. Behind him there is Jenkins in 16th for the moment, yet to have jumped position. He actually drops one to 17th as from behind him was the number 96 of Robert Ogun, yet to have set a time as well. I believe they're just starting their flying lap. Looking further up the order to see, it was James Robertson, the 666, that set a time 2.3 seconds off of pole position, but that's good enough for 13th right now. It's a real testament to see how competitive the field is here. That top 7 only separated by 1.1 seconds between Melvin Milliston and James Mason. Speaking of Melvin Milliston, he is heading down towards the line as we speak from Blanchemont in Sector 3. It's a very strong start to qualifying by Melvin Milliston. Can he round this off by maintaining that pole position? He's got a 0.2 of a second gap to the nearest car. 6 minutes to get this one nailed in. Heading towards the line. Is it an extension from his current fastest lap? Down across the line, a 2:16.232 to beat. And he doesn't match it this time around. Looking at some of the data coming through at this time, his previous lap. If we get a gander here from our helpful onboard systems at Simbot, that last lap was almost dead on a 2:16.232. Unless it's outdated there, I'm pretty sure he's just matched his time down to the 1,000th of a second. That is a statement of his consistency in that BMW. Waiting no longer for his opportunity to win a race here. Of course, Milliston was renowned in Season 1 for that pole position curse. He would qualify on pole position frequently throughout the season. Only once could he elevate it to a win, and that was in round 4 at the Red Bull Ring. It would be more often than not in the early half of the season that this man here, the 111 at McLaren, Wesley Kuiper, would take the win, of which he managed to acclaim 50% of Season 1's wins without getting a championship. So that's a remarkable statistic. We'll see whether or not Kuiper commits himself to a full-time drive in Season 2. On the grounds that he does, he could find himself very quickly in the fight for the championship. Of course, with 2 more rounds than Season 1, there is a longer stretch to this fight. And things will be able to go all the way to the bitter end for a lot of these drivers as we get down into round 1. Across the line then, and matching almost exactly to the mark there to Jason Bush's time. Wesley Kuiper is 0.248 off of Melvin Milliston. That is the first of a very rare sight indeed here in the Sunday League of matching the times down to a 1,000th of a second. That is incredible stuff by Kuiper. And that's a sign of things to come here. If he's keeping that ball rolling, he'll find himself very... Oh, did you see that there? Get that up on the replay. Kuiper, as he was heading down through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, narrowly avoided a big hit of the wall. He's now returned back to the pit lane for the time being. But that was a very near miss for Kuiper. You see there, the back end snapped away on his McLaren. Very nearly putting him in at the wall there. We're now on board with the 666 of James Robertson as they make their way out of Bruxelles down towards the no-name corner. Turn 11 here at Spa as they head into the middle sector. On their trails at the moment is Robert Ogun in the number 96 Lexus. Also out on flying laps at the moment. The number 1 and the number 313 are down towards the line at the moment. We'll see where their times rank up at the end of their flying laps, of course. That being Diman Ivanov and Hayden Puttock for Aston Martin and Honda. Hayden Puttock maintains 6th position. Diman Ivanov up to 4th on the end of that last lap. Some of our data is a little bit corrupt there, so timing information is not 100% on Simbot at the moment. Mighty unreliable as ever. Heading out of Kerber Paul Frere, we'll stay on board with James Robertson. Can they find an improvement necessary for a top 15 start here? They want to find themselves inside that top 50% for the start of this opening round. It is not going to be by any stretch of the imagination easy to cope with, especially heading down into Eau Rouge and Raidillon. We're looking at 29 cars in all heading down towards turn 3, 4 and 5 at the start of this race. An hour-long race on our hands here in Belgium. Robertson down to the line from 16th position, a 2:18.407. Sadly, an invalidated one at that doesn't put him up a position See here, Kostas Angelidis last time was a 2:19.152, currently 19th, looking for an improvement up by Rouge and Radion. Another one of the BMWs, James Mason in the 4:13, currently 8th position. Last lap was a 2:19.518. Best lap was a 2:17.421. We'll get a look at those qualifying predictions yet again here as we get down to the final minutes of quali. And Mason is predicted in and around 9th position, so right now is overachieving by being up in 8th. I think that is much on the addition of the fact that Hayden Prodger doesn't appear to be present in this round, meaning a free position handed there to Mason. And by contrast to Ben Cheeseman, who was predicted at 10th, we'll see where they are over the course of this round, if they're present for this round of the championship. So heading down to the bus stop chicane goes the number 413 of James Mason for BMW. We'll see what he can do here at the end of this lap. Cross the line they go. 7th position then. 2:18.135 was their last time. Not a good enough time for position change. Here towards the end of qualifying, we've only a minute left to go. Some drivers just taking things easy in the pit lane. Scott Milbank is currently 13th, remaining in the pit lane. Surrounding him there, Mike Wade and Ladshok Richard. See as well Corey Tidman in the pit lane. Ian Skeen in the number 696 is 28th with Mercedes, one of 2 Mercs to have registered for this championship. Jason Bush on his last lap there was finding improvements at 2:16.480, but it wasn't enough for pole position. Having a look at that divide again, it's still a 0.248 gap at the moment between himself and Melvin Milliston. Wesley Kuiper matches that time dead on to the 1,000th of a second. So there's a remarkable qualifying shootout to kick off season 2 of the NLRL Sunday League live here on TRTN. We'll be able to cover hopefully all 10 rounds of the championship this season from start to finish. Right now though, if you're tuning in with us, we're heading towards the end of our first ever qualifying of this season. Wesley Kuiper though fishtailing out of Stavelot as he heads around Kerber-Paul Frere. Will he have enough time? No, he won't. Towards the end of qualifying, this is his last lap to get this run in, and with that big snap, I think that could be the end of Wesley Kuiper's qualifying endeavours. Jason Bush still has one more time left to play. You can see there Kuiper bringing it to one side. Bush is also in, so Melvin Milliston is, as far as we're concerned, in a secure pole position. Hayden Puttock also in the pits. Same story for Axel Cassier. James Mason is the only one left to challenge it. The 107 of Dave Bond just crossed the line for 21st. We'll get a full rundown of our first starting grid of the season in a moment's time. We're watching here with James Mason, the last, or among the last of our qualifying times for today. The 413 BMW making their way out of Blanchimont. Are they on track for a top 5 here? They've got to find 0.6 of a second to get past Hayden Puttock's time to make their way to the back of the top 5 for this start. That would be the goal for Mason. What is he capable of out of turn 20 at the bus stop chicane? The BMW across the line. Is it an improvement at the end of quali? Sadly, no, it is not. 8th position then for James Mason. He is actually our last time for today. The other 2 throwing in the towel before the end of the session. That's the end of qualifying. You can see quite an extensive grid on our hands here heading into round 1 of the championship. We'll get a recount of our news as we head into the formation lap to take us away onto round 1. 29 cars in all. Plenty to discuss coming into round 1. And this is quite the set piece to give us that opening round of the championship. So, kicking things off, it's Melvin Milliston from pole position. Jason Bush on his first drive in the NLRL Sunday League impresses massively by getting his number 33 Lexus to the front row and matching his time exactly down to the 1,000th, but reluctantly putting him on the second row is season regular Wesley Kuiper, and he starts alongside another new face here in the Sunday League, Diman Ivanov with Aston Martin. Hailing from Bulgaria, starting in 4th position ahead of Hayden Puttock, now joining Honda for this leg of the championship. Axel Cassier, a new face from Belgium, makes his way to 6th ahead of James Mason. Corey Tidman up to 8th. Carmelo Abate, a season regular and championship runner-up last season, is in 9th position. Francois Debont rounds out that top 10. Kevin Quain from Canada And the Malwar Racing team starts in 11th position ahead of Hayden Prodger, who was present for this round, so we just couldn't find them during qualifying. They'll start with Nissan in 12th position. Scott Milbank in 13th. Tyler Vermaak in 14th. James Robertson in 15th. Christian LeBay, previous season's champion for Aston Martin, in 16th position. Kyle Jenkins in 17th. Kostas Angelidis in 18th. Mike Wade in 19th. Robert Ogan rounding out the top 20. Dave Bond starting 21st ahead of Alex Marignon in 22nd, Marian Stoyanov in 23rd, ahead of Lachok Richard in 24th. Guan Malomgre in 25th position, ahead of Ben Cheeseman. Charlie Smith in 27th and Ian Skeen in 28th. We've dropped one car since the end of qualifying, but that is a mighty impressive front row indeed. Jason Bush is looking to wow expectations today, setting a precedent for Lexus and for the United States, going toe-to-toe with Sweden's Melvin Milliston in the BMW M4. This is looking to be an exceptionally exciting round of the championship, and what a way to kick things off. We've got an hour of racing then. We've upped the stakes from 45 minutes to 1 hour, adding an extra quarter of an hour for a little bit of added strategy for our drivers today. Still open field though for pit stops. Do we expect drivers to consider refueling or new tyres over the course of this race, though not a mandate coming into round one? This is going to be a very exciting bunch to watch, and we're only a few seconds away from the start of our formation lap. We'll be giving our 30-second warning right about now here. We'll be going on board with Melvin Milliston, our pole sitter for round one of the NLRL Sunday League Season 2. We'll stay on the dash cam here. We're on board with Milliston, who will effectively start this race as our race leader down towards that line. So taking us away in a moment's time here. All 28 engines fired up and ready to go. You can see backing up the field is Cheeseman, Malomgre, Smith and Skeen. And I believe that was Guan Malomgre just being relegated to the pit lane. So that's a pit lane start, unfortunately, for the Porsche heading into this round. But taking us away then, Melvin Milliston on the formation lap. And let's continue our recount of the news before we kick off round one of the championship. Of course, we first talked about the news of Gordon Shedden joining Toyota Gazoo Racing in the BTCC, and other news coming out of the world of esports as EA Codemasters effectively loses the F1 esports license after F1 24. There will no longer be an F1 esports series run off of the EA Codemasters F1 franchise of games for the foreseeable future. This does send quite the chill into the Codemasters offices here, as it could spell a further indication of losing the F1 license in its entirety by the end of 2026. In MotoGP news, Pirelli is set to replace Michelin as the tyre supplier in 2027. Michelin, having a long run in the recent years of MotoGP, was set to be replaced by the all-encompassing might of Pirelli. Looking elsewhere, Wayne Taylor Racing set to make their Le Mans debut at this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans for the 2025 World Endurance Championship season. It's going to be a very exciting prospect for the team, fielding the Cadillac alongside Action Express Racing. In World Endurance Championship news, an extra round slot has been approved for 2027, leaving many to speculate that Silverstone is in frame for a potential entry in the 2027 World Endurance Championship season. This comes in line with the fact that the European Le Mans Series returns to Silverstone this coming season. And of course, rounding out our news, we'll head on to our sponsors at malwartransport.ca. If you are looking for a professional brokerage service for your business in regards to transportation, logistics, heavy haulage and oversized cargo, give them a ring on their phone number, available on their website www.malwar-transport.ca. Of course, this is for if your business is located in Canada. They've been our proud sponsors over the course of Season 1 of the Sunday League. They've been proud partners of TRTN over the course of the last couple of months. It's been a real pleasure working with these folks. They're a grand bunch. Go visit their website if you're interested in logistics and oversized cargo specialists for your business and you're based in Canada. They're reputable tradespeople from Quebec. 30 years experience in the Canadian trucking industry. They're the real go-to. So heading down into the middle sector here, down towards Campus and Stavolo to bring us out of Sector 2. You can see there a long line of cars lining up behind Melvin Milliston, starting this race up front after a grand pole position. Kuiper and Bush looking to be ultra competitive in second and third right now. They matched each other's times down to the 1,000th of a second. You can see things are looking very ambitious inside that top 10 as well. Plenty of new drivers, Bush being among them. Ivanov as well is looking to be in a very strong position. They start inside the top 5 with Aston Martin in the number 1 car. They're sandwiched in between Hayden Puttock and Wesley Kuiper. Further down the line, you can also see Axel Cassier in the Ford Mustang. They find themselves, I think, down in 6th or 7th position. It was a very, very solid qualifying for them as well on debut. So heading out of Blanchimont then, a few cars starting from the pit lane, Malom, Gray, Cheeseman and Smith among them. We're staying on board with Melvin Milliston, starting alongside him then Jason Bush, that second row, Kuiper and Ivanov, Puttock and Cassier, the road behind them. So on and so forth. It is a real grand paddock here today. Heading into round 1 of Season 2, the NLRL Sunday League. We've got a short run around the opening straight down to La Source. The race actually starts after turn 1, heading down to turns 3, 4, 5. That's where the start timing line is for GT, if I'm not mistaken. I will have finger on the trigger here ready for if the race does start from this line, though. In my previous experience with NLRL, I believe it was a case where we start down on the other end of the track. You can see the drivers were getting hot on the anticipation that they would be starting this race from here. Heading down towards La Source. It is a very slow crawl now. 28 cars in all for this race. 25 of which lined up on track 3, starting from the pit lane. Down into La Source we go. From the perspective of the race leader here and pole position sitter, Melvin Milliston leads 25 cars on road down towards the line here in the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for the first round of Season 2. Without further ado, as we head down towards the line, staring down towards Eau Rouge and Radion here in Belgium, are green and racing here at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for the kickoff of the season. It's underway as we head down into La Source. Well, sorry, not La Source, Eau Rouge and Radion. And getting through rather gracefully is our top 5 there. You can see Ivanov having to cut the line, but is still alongside Wesley Kuiper as we head down the Kemmel Straight. He now finds himself alongside Hayden Puttock and Axel Cassier. Further down the line, you can see that James Robertson has a drive-through penalty. Further down the line, Ian Skeen starting to catch up to Lachok Richards. This is Kostas Angelidis with damage over the nose of his number 510 BMW. Down into Le Common Melmedy, James Mason right on the back of Axel Cassier. Heading down into Brussels, there's Scott Milbank looking to get antsy here with his teammate James Robertson and Kostas Angelidis, a mere observer to the double action here from BMW. Robertson to the inside, Milbank to the outside as we head around turn 10 for the first time here in Spa, down towards turn 11. Robertson's up into 17th despite that drive-through. Looking back up towards our front row here, we'll just quickly get an onboard with James Robertson. As you can see right in front of him, the battle on hand between Christian Lebay and Tyler Vermaak, but he's looking to make himself three's company as a part of that. Round turn 12 gets a little bit too much curb, has to drop back. And following through was Scott Milbank, side by side with him at campus. The 44 and the 666 giving it absolute hells for bells here. Both of them K1 Esports drivers with BMW are leaving absolutely nothing up to chance here. They're not going to avoid a scrap, even though there's a drive-through penalty in the middle of it. The number 23 in trouble down at turn 10 brought yellow flags out for sector 1. That's not grand, but Robertson, despite that drive-through, has put on a phenomenal show there at the back of the top 15. Looking up at our front row, Melvin Milliston leads by 1.1 seconds. Jason Bush leads into second by half a second to Wesley Kuiper. Diman Ivanov is right on the back of the Dutchman. We're looking around here. Lebay and Vermaak side by side. Contact between the pair. Vermaak spirals, hits Milbank. It's a big off for Tyler Vermaak. It has gone horribly, horribly wrong. The Aston and the Ferrari were side by side through Blanchimont. It was just a little tap there across the quarter. Vermaak spins, hits the nose of Lebay, is now in a dead spiral. There's nowhere he can go. Hits Milbank, spirals into the wall. That has gone from bad to worse there. A big off. Tyler Vermack is heading into the pit lane. A drive-through penalty for James Robertson. Kostas Angelidis has damage, as too does Goran Malongre. Stop-go 30-second penalty for the Porsche, but they're going to stay out by the looks of it. This is Diman Ivanov. We're now going on board for the fight potential for third. Could even be the fight for fourth. We're going to actually look behind them here, as we can see if we can find them in time here. Tidman side by side at the moment with Hayden Prodger with Nissan. That quickly sorts itself out. Tidman's actually side by side with Francois Dupont as they head down into Le Common Melody. Dupont backing out. Bond side by side with Skeen. The Mustang's going to try for the last of the late breakers, but Skeen's got him on the inside, heading up into 15th position. A grand move by Ian Skeen. We wanted to try and get a look here at this fight. Carmelo Abate versus Axel Cassier for 7th position. We'll stay on board with Cassier from Ford's perspective as they go heading out of turn 11 at the no-name. They're chasing the Porsche there of championship runner-up Carmelo Abate. James Mason is getting very close at the moment to being caught by Carmelo Abate and Axel Cassier. Heading around Kerber Paul Frere, then turn 16 brings us onto Sector 3. What a start to the race. That's been plenty of action and drama to kick things off here for Season 2. We're staying on board with Axel Cassier. You can see just the superior straight line speed of that Mustang as we go heading around Blanchimont. Turn 17 becomes turn 18. No room for him there, right up to the rear quarter of the Porsche of Carmelo Abate. Right in the background there's Kevin Quain in the 706, but Axel Cassier has gone for the long run around. The outside becomes the inside at turn 20. What a move by Axel Cassier. Let's get a replay on that. That was brilliant stuff. All the meanwhile, Carmelo Abate is eyeing himself up for a dive to the inside, and he managed to get that in at La Source. They're side by side at the moment as we keep on with the live footage. You're seeing the replay here of the overtake for 7th position by Axel Cassier. That was well-crafted stuff. The two are right on top of each other as they go heading out of La Source. Kevin Quain, an observer at the moment, could very well become, in and of himself, a battle for 7th position here. Quain goes rocketing over the Eau Rouge and Radion chicane. Right side by side at the moment, Quain v Abate, the Mustang catching up to the car leading this three-man battle. Axel Cassier, the number 63 Mustang, of which we're watching on board with at the moment. Kevin Quain's up a position, up into 8th with Ford. Very nicely done then. Francois Dupont chasing Corey Tidman. This is for 10th position. Another one of the new Fords to join us this season. A drive-through penalty still to serve by James Robertson over the course of the next 54 minutes. He's got about 3 laps to do so. Heading down into turn 11. We're still on board with Francois Dupont. Number 4 then. Chasing in front of him. Car in 10th position. Number 8, Corey Tidman from the UK with Tidman Racing. You can see that BMW has some real grunt. Of course, twin-turbo engine. Twin-turbo inline 6 up against naturally aspirated V8. In a torque argument, that's a very tough one to throw up here. I'm sure plenty of people would give you the argument there's no replacement for displacement. You're seeing it right now. That BMW has got the Ford dead to rights heading out of these corners. The number 510's in trouble at the moment. Down at Le Common and Melmedy, they're back into the pit lane now. There's been chaos towards the back of that grid. We're staying here just outside the top 10 with Francois Dupont as he looks to chase a run in to the top 10 by the end of the first 10 minutes of racing here. We're on towards lap 3 as we head to Blanchimont. You can see that straight line speed coming back to haunt Corey Tidman. The BMW, though strong as it is in a straight line, is not going to have an awful lot to say when the Ford's back in question. So heading down into the bus stop chicane, very late for the brakes then. Corey Tidman is trying absolutely everything he can to hold this position off from Francois Dupont, but a poor run through the bus stop chicane isn't giving him many options. Fortunately, Dupont struggling for acceleration on the number 4 Mustang as we go heading into lap 3. Down towards La Source we go at turn 1. Mike Wade is into the pits, the number 169 Nissan. Already running into troubles here on the start of round 1. We're still on board then, Dupont and Tidman heading down through Eau Rouge and Radion. But want to get a perspective here from the Ford. This is exactly what it feels like to chase a car up this hill. He's got a bit of the dirty air to deal with. Is having to take a little bit of a cheeky cut over there, but it is within limits and is allowed. You can see up in front of them as well, Abate and Quain still fighting it out here. 0.2 of a second between the pair of them. It actually looks like the case where Abate is going to try and outbrake Quain down into Lacombe and Melmedy, but the Mustang has got him dead to rights. We'll catch up with the battle of De Bont v Tidman later on. We try and have a look around the track to see where our other battles could be coming from. Of course, we saw this one, Kevin Quain versus Carmelo Abate, an exciting battle for 8th position. Axel Cassier now 1.5 seconds up the road from his iconic move down at the bus stop chicane earlier on this race. Looking around the field, here's the other of the two Nissans, Hayden Prodger in the 222 sporting the colours of K1 Esports, the blue and gold and white. They're a real nice grand set of colours. He's down in 15th position, but he's made strides since the race start. You can see there's a bit of damage to deal with on the Nissan, but he's doing the best he can here. Of course, his first drive with Nissan from Aston Martin. Adapting to new machinery is not something that can be done overnight, and this is his first big race with Nissan. Plenty to be expected on the horizon then by Prodger. He was a late entry into Season 1 and did wow expectations then. Had his spur of bad luck runs, but was able to come out with a very grand result by the end of this season. This season gone, I should say, with Aston Martin. Carmelo Abate now 0.5 second from Kevin Quain. You can really see the difference as they go heading down to Blanchemont. We're going to get a look here as Mason v Cassier becomes a question right about now. We're going to try and get on board. You can see in the background there, James Mason caught around the outside by Axel Cassier. You can see he's going to try and run this the long way around. I think Axel Cassier is trying to make 2 for 2 here on moves at the bus stop. Can't get it done on James Mason. This is the fight for 6th position at the moment. We'll stay on board the defending car of the two. James Mason in the number 413 with BMW. Fighting at the moment for 6th position against Axel Cassier from Belgium with Ford Performance. So we go heading down towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Looking over the monstrous rear spoiler of that BMW, you can see just tucked snugly into his slipstream at the moment. Out of Raidillon we go. There was a yellow flag. That was Hayden Puttock. That bright blue Honda has run into some trouble there, and he's lost quite a few positions up Raidillon. There, Francois Dupont got him by, so now out of the top 10. Still side by side between Cassier and Mason. What can the Mustang do? I think it just ran out of roads there at the start of Lacombe. Out of Melmedy. Mason's putting up a grand defence here with BMW. What is now for 5th position in this race. After the loss there of Hayden Puttock. We also got trouble up front. You see white flags are shown. Yellow flags now coming out for these drivers. They go heading down into the no-name corner. Trying to figure out what the fuss was about there. I think it's Mike Wade's 169 car that's just up the road from them at the moment, sandwiched in between our top two. That's gone back into green flag conditions for now. We're still watching with James Mason. You can see bearing down on him as we head out of Pouhon down towards campus is Axel Cassier. Behind them as well, the battle between Corey Tidman and Carmelo Abate about to kick off. They're 3/10 apart from one another. Bit of a slip up there in front by Wesley Kuiper. The McLaren struggling in the opening 10 minutes. We're going to go on board with that battle behind them in a moment's time to see what the state of affairs is between Carmelo Abate and Corey Tidman. Tidman, by the way, looking on a very reinvigorated drive since his late debut last season. What a way to kick things off then. Heading out of Blanchemont, you can just see how much speed the Mustang's carrying. Looks like Cassier's going for the outside again. Mason's going to cover him off, taking centre mass of the road, but he's going to compromise his line. I think this is exactly what Axel was waiting for. Heading out of turn 20, though, Mason's done exactly what he's needed to. More trouble. Yellow flags out at turn 19. More trouble on the horizon. Francois Dupont gets the leg up. I believe there was an incident then with Corey Tidman and Carmelo Abate, as they now both drop away down a few positions. We can see Carmelo Abate is now down to 9th. No current whereabouts on Corey Tidman. Axel Cassier and Francois Dupont have gained... just Francois Dupont and Kevin Quain have gained a position due to that incident. Still watching the fight here for 5th position. Axel Cassier chasing James Mason. Wesley Kuiper 2.8 seconds up the road. Diman Ivanov in 3rd. Looks to be chasing 2nd in a moment's time. Number 68 of Melvin Milliston dominant in this race performance thus far. They've led just under 15 minutes of racing so far in the opening round. It's looking very, very strong for the Swede. See, this is a real captivating battle at the moment for 5th. We're going to get a look on board with Axel Cassier, the attacking of the two. Just briefly looking here, Ian Skeen attacking Corey Tidman for 11th position as we head down through turn 10. Jason Bush and Diman Ivanov nearly 2 seconds apart from one another. Let's go back on board then the second half of this battle for 5th position. The car down in 6th at the time of recording, if we can find them that quickly. Axel Cassier with Ford Performance. It's been a very solid opener for the number 63, a new driver for this season, going toe-to-toe with James Mason, a season regular, was consistently inside that top 10 all throughout last season's performance. See, heading out of Kerber Paul Frere, turn 16. They wouldn't be able to get away with that nowadays. That's all gravel in the new iteration of Spa. Heading down towards Blanchimont, you can just see the gap start to drop away between the BMW and the Ford. Lower downforce setup for Cassier. Greater risk involved with that, but you can see just how confidently he's able to command the car. A sudden last second flick to the left-hand side brings him to the outside line at turn 19, but running both of them out of brakes as Wesley Kuiper leaps for the pit lane. These two now move up into the fight for 4th. They're side by side on the run to La Source. James Mason looks to forfeit this, whether reason or not, to Axel Cassier down to La Source. But Mason looks to take it back on the inside at La Source. Can Cassier run the switchback just before turn 3? No, he cannot. This is really kicking off to be a proper cinematic fight here. The battle of the front engine cars here for 4th position of this race. One does wonder what was the governing reason behind Wesley Kuiper going into the pits this early into the race. 15 minutes covered, and that McLaren is already boxing for what appeared to be new tyres. He was flicking all over the road in the middle sector in the last couple of laps from what we were able to see from the perspective of these two. This has been the battle to watch at the moment up inside the top 5. Mason and Cassier have shared in a absolutely spectacular battle. We're going to cut away from them for a moment here as they head into the middle sector to see where our next fights could be coming from. Kevin Quain is 0.6 of a second away from Carmelo Abate. The imminent threat of a battle for 7th position is looming on the shoulders of the Italian, moving into a defensive posture against the Mustang. Right behind them, though, you can see there looks to be an exciting fight for 9th position. Ian Skeen versus Corey Tidman, if I'm not mistaken there. Yes, you can see there's the Mercedes of Ian Skeen, whom I must say has had a brilliant start to this race. He started down on that last row, is currently inside the top 10 alongside Corey Tidman. That is a brilliant, understated performance by the Mercedes. One of two in this championship, the other being the number 75 of Dane JK. Skeen is absolutely on fire here. Has walked his way across the whole grid order. Corey Tidman goes deep into Campus. Down towards Stavelot we go. Has actually been able to recuperate some of that momentum. We are looking here at the fight of 9th position between Tidman and Skeen. A civil war here amongst the Brits at the back of the top 10. BMW versus Mercedes as well. Heading out of Kerber Paul Frere, big lump of gravel there on the number 8 of Tidman. He goes wide out of turn 16, is losing ground, is fading away from the fight of 9th here, 0.6 of a second, as it looks like Skeen's eyeing himself up for a move on Kevin Quain in the near future, now dropping that gap under a second as we head towards the bus stop chicane. It has been a real grand opening, to say the least, and we are definitely looking now more than ever at the fight of 8th position. 3 men involved: Kevin Quain, Ian Skeen and Corey Tidman as we head out of the bus stop chicane. The Mustang is powerless at the moment. The Mercedes has got him dead to rights in the corner. He was just over 2 seconds faster in that last lap. Something horrific had to have happened in the court of Kevin Quain in the 706 for him to drop away from Carmelo Abate, who now looks to eye up Francois Dubont for 6th position in this race, and has once more given rise to the opportunity for Ian Skeen to have a go at 8th position. heading up Eau and Radion. You can see it is now definitely a two-horse race. Corey Tidman dropping away and having to cut the chicane behind them as well. Christian LeBay and Hayden Prodger doing battle. But here is Ian Skeen side by side with the Mustang of Kevin Quain in the 706. The 696 Mercedes alongside, looking to go around the outside as we head down towards Lacombe. It's looking very tight between the pair of them here, but out of Lacombe, Ian Skeen up to 8th position. Corey Tidman tried to follow through, but the door was slammed in his face as we exit Melmedy. Looking in the rear view, we'll see if the Mustang's going to try its luck against the BMW and the Mercedes in front of it. The BMW looks to follow him through there. Could be a free position for Corey Tidman. Kevin Quain's put his foot to the floor. No thank you, he says, as we head out of turn 11. What a move then by Ian Skeen. We want to try and get a look at that battle as well. We just cut across. There was Marian Stoyanov. We could also see the gap at the moment. Melvin Milliston and Jason Bush is 3.9 seconds. We want to get a look at the battle then. So we can see Corey Tidman now fighting for 9th against Kevin Quain. We'll quickly stay on board with this to see what the BMW does. Heading down into Campus. It's ever so close to the 706. The number 8, after losing out to that position to Ian Skeen, is quite reinvigorated for a competitive drive inside the top 10. We can also see Hayden Prodger now up ahead of Christian LeBay. We're going to try and get a look at that fight, but right now our focal point is here on the fight for 9th position. We're watching in the perspective here, the number 8, as he slides around Kerber Paul Frere, is Corey Tidman. A late entry to this championship as well, joined I think just about this morning. So even with that little preparation time that he had, Tidman, despite being in the championship last season and being reluctant to rejoin until just this morning, is on a properly reinvigorated drive. He's properly woken up out of his slumber in the number 8. Is really giving us some lively competition here, looking to challenge Kevin Quain for 9th position as we go heading down to La Source on the start of lap 8. Right on his trails then, what is looking to be a fight very soon for 10th position in the court of Hayden Prodger in that Nissan, as he motions toward the back of Corey Tidman. We could find ourselves with 3, maybe even 4 cars in all very soon in the fight for 9th. Kevin Quain is going to have to put on a remarkable defensive performance here to hold off the careening BMW of Corey Tidman. Hayden Prodger is not too far away at all as well. Right now you can see it's a straight line drag race on the Kemmel down towards Lacombe. To the inside then goes Corey Tidman. Can he hold his nerve as he heads through Lacombe? Kevin Quain trying for a switchback on him. The door was slammed in his face, just like last time around, he says. Out of Melmedy we go then. Up into 9th goes Corey Tidman. Kevin Quain down to 10th. Hayden Prodger looking for a top 10 with Nissan. Wesley Kuiper appears to be out of this race for unknown reasons, as he's texted in the chat saying GG's. Usually that's a sign that he's out. We'll have a look around and see where he could be. The 111 doesn't appear to be anywhere on the track map, and that is a mighty shame. Nonetheless, for those who remain, we're looking at the fights inside the top 10. We'll cut away from Corey Tidman and try and get a perspective here of one of 2 in the battle at the back of the top 10. Kevin Quain's defending. We're going to get a look on board with the attacking car here. Hayden Prodger on his exciting move over to Nissan from Aston Martin is finally getting the big break he's been looking for here in Spa. Now challenging for 10th with the Nissan GTR. Right on the back of Kevin Quain. We don't know an awful lot about the Nissan GTR, as we've rarely ever seen it compete here on TRTN. The little we do know about it, of course, nicknamed Godzilla, came from the world of touring car racing in the Group A category, made its name in the 1990s and 1980s in the world of Group C and Group A. Now, in the modern day, is one of the darling childs of... darling children, I should say, of the Japanese GT scene. GT300 and Super GT500 have held a claim to the Nissan GTR R35 in its final generation, as Nissan announces this will be the last of the infamous GTR. The God Killer, as it were. Introduced this specific model in 2007, the GTR did 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds at a price of £74,000 brand new in 2007. It was a fraction of the cost of its competitors at Lamborghini and Ferrari, and was remarkably fast, a proper thoroughbred enthusiast's car. Now we get to see it participate in the NLRL Sunday League today, and is doing a grand job in the hands of Hayden Prodger. And side by side they go, up through Lacombe. Kevin Quain's been vulnerable at this section before. Not this time around. He's going to swing across, but it's contact. We can also see Corey Tipman was across the road there as well. Something was amiss. Christian Lebey's now back into this fight. And this is now what we're looking at is the battle of 9th position. As we've gone up one, I think Corey Tipman took a tumble out of Melmedy. What on earth happened to that BMW? He was having a very grand drive. It's a 4-man battle for 9th position. Quain v Proger v Lebey v Bond as we head into turn 12. You can see that Mustang is just able to keep its foot down. It is absolutely gone out of turn 12. Lofty understeer from the cars behind it, the Aston and the Nissan, sandwiched in between Ford's next generation Ford Mustang. Oh, but a big slide by a 107. That was a good save there by Dave Bond to keep himself in this fight. We're still watching on board with Hayden Proger, sandwiched right in the middle of it. Previous season's champion Christian Lebey eyeing him up for 10th position, and he's looking in front towards Lebey's teammate Kevin Quain at Maloir Racing for 9th as we head into Blanchimont. A real ensemble noise there for engine notes. Oh, it's wide. It's super wide. Out of Blanchimont. Hayden Proger into the wall. Oh, no. What on earth happened? I think he kicked it over the inside curb. I was saying it was a very big gamble to avoid it. No, he just slid out. The back end of the car snapped away, snapped in the opposite direction. It took him all the way across the runoff, then all the way back across the track. Oh, that is brutal. Absolutely brutal. Nonetheless, let's see if we can catch back on board with what's going on at the back of that top 10. Christian Lebey now finds himself inside the top 10. Kevin Quain in 9th. Dave Bond chasing him from 11th as we head up Eau Rouge and Radion. We're back on board with last season's champion here with Aston Martin. Right now, in the defending fight for 10th position, Dave Bond is right on his tail, heading down the Kemmel, down towards turn 7 here at the start of Lacombe. Lebey goes early on the brakes. He's taking a more conservative line. He's let Bond run himself out of road, and he has to cut across Lacombe and Melmedy. That was tactical by Christian Lebey. Looking around the field at the moment, Jason Bush is now out by 4.6 seconds to Melvin Milliston. Looks for a confident podium finish at this current rate. Diman Ivanov, 3.8 seconds with him in Aston Martin. So a very interesting podium by the looks of things. If things keep as they are, it's BMW, Lexus and Aston Martin. And that is a real trendsetter first, I must say. One of the drivers of the day has definitely been Axel Cassier with that grand fight that he had with James Mason. He now finds himself up to 4th, Mason down to 5th, Abate to 6th. Skeen, I must say, though, is the definitive choice right now. He has already elevated this beyond any wild expectations of his performance today. Started towards the back and is now up to 7th position, has clashed heads with plenty of new and returning drivers alike for that acclaim. That is a grand drive by any record for Ian Skeen in the 696. Even if he doesn't go on to win the race today, he ought to be proud of himself for such a record drive like that. Looking around the field at the moment, it's been a rough day for Tyler Vermack. Had a lot of promise coming into this round, is looking to make the most of the position he's in at the moment. He's currently 19th. Milliston leading this race. He is just absolutely gone. You can see the physical gap between himself and Jason Bush in second as he heads down towards Lacombe. James Robertson, Scott Milbank, the 666 and the 44 BMWs. They're down in 17th and 18th position. James Mason, furthest up the order for K1, is in 5th. He's had a grand drive, I must say. That brilliant battle he shared in with Axel Cassier is one definitely to go in the history books here in the Sunday League. That was brilliant stuff between the pair of them. Plenty of action. Oh, that's trouble for Milbank. That looks to be damage over the front right. Absolutely. I think that might be a black and orange for him in the near future. We want to try and get a look on board because we saw it in the background here. Lebey and Bond still side by side. Bond's now to the advantage, heading into Lacombe. Lebey tries he can, just cannot keep pace with Ford in a straight line. That is a big, big shame for him. Sadly, we've also lost as well Robert Ogun, the number 96 Lexus, out of this race. All the best of luck to him in the coming race at Alton Park this Wednesday. Roll on Wednesday, he says. Absolutely. We're still watching, though. This is the fight for 10th position. We're watching on board the perspective of the defending Ford Mustang here, the 107 of Dave Bond, fighting with last season's champion Christian Lebay in the Aston Martin. Its manoeuvrability versus straight line speed at the moment. The Mustang is an absolute cruiser in a straight line. It is far and away unparalleled at this level of competition. The Aston Martin, even despite its old age, is properly spry in those corners, especially in the hands of Christian Lebay, who has put on a grand drive today, despite a relatively down-and-out qualifying, has made the most of it through the chaos that Spa often provides to put himself in and around the top 10, where he absolutely needs to be if he wants to reinvigorate a drive for a second consecutive championship win. Of course, way too early to tell here. We've 9 more rounds after this one before we can crown the next champion of the NLRL Sunday League. Will it be championship number 2 for Christian Lebay, or will it be championship number 1 for us, a future mystery driver? That is what we're here to find out today, and it's looking very exciting already as we just get down towards the halfway mark here. We're about 2 minutes away from the halfway mark of this race. Looking at the standing order as we continue to watch the battle for 10th position. Melvin Milliston leads, Jason Bush in 2nd, Diman Ivanov in 3rd, Axel Cassier in 4th, James Mason 5th, Carmelo Abate in 6th, Ian Skeen up to 7th, ahead of Francois Debont in 8th position. Kevin Quain in 9th, we're watching here, Dave Bond in 10th, right behind him, Christian Lebay in 11th position. Ben Cheeseman in 12th, Kyle Jenkins 13th, Alex Marignon in 14th, Marian Stoyanov in 15th, LeChoc Richard in 16th position, James Robertson in 17th, Scott Milbank 18th, Tyler Vomack 19th, Hayden Puttock in 20th, Mike Wade in 21st. Sadly, multiple DNFs out of this race, among them Proger and Kuiper, as well as other drivers like Ogun as well. We're down quite a few on the opening round. Definitely will be some questions over driving standard. Make no mistake of that, there was clearly quite a few major incidents that went under the radar here as we were watching up towards the front of the pack, heading towards the halfway mark of this race. See that it's pretty much an equal split now between 9th, 10th and 11th. Quain 0.8 seconds ahead, Lebay almost 0.8 seconds behind. Dave Bond stuck in the middle at the back of the top 10 is Mike Wade, 21st in the 169 Nissan. He's back out on track but has a drive-through penalty to serve at the halfway mark of this race. We're watching now Carmelo Abate have to try and defend 6th position off of Ian Skeen, who's been on the warpath all race long here. Let's have a look with the battle of 6th position at the halfway mark here of round 1. Ian Skeen's going to try for it around the outside of Carmelo Abate in the Porsche. Abate looks to defend through turn 19, turn 20 comes on quick, and now both of them go rocketing out to start another lap here. Abate in 6th, Skeen in 7th. We'll leave you on board the perspective then for a moment's time. We'll be back in a second here, watching the battle for 6th between Carmelo Abate and Ian Skeen as they head up Eau Rouge and Radion. We're going to try and go on board the attacking car's perspective here to give you the better line through this race here. Looking from Ian Skeen's perspective, you get a better perspective for just how close these two are to one another. still watching on board the perspective here of Ian Skean as he's dropped away from the fight against Carmelo Abate. The Porsche really opening the taps here past the midway mark. Heading out of turn 16, the curb of Paul Frere, both of them taking a little bit of the run off for good measure. Skeen dropping away then in 7th position. At the moment, nothing really seems to be going on between our top 3 at the moment. Milliston, Bush and Ivanov have all been within decent gaps to one another, about 3 to 4 seconds on either side. The nearest it's been at the moment since race start is 2.5 seconds. That's between Jason Bush and Diman Ivanov. Nothing really to report then. These 3 are just consistent, solid drives. We hope to see them clash heads one day. There is some real talent then up in that podium. Looking to see then where our next fights are coming from. We believed it to have come from Abate v Skeen. Things are starting to mellow out a little bit here. We can see Christian LeBay's drop behind Ben Cheeseman. We could also see further down the line Kyle Jenkins being kept good company there by Mike Wade down in 21st. Right now, though, this is the fight for 11th. LeBay really having to cling to the margins here as the Aston's still going to be the good choice for this season. He knows he's got solid straight line speed, but is it enough in the new wake of competition for the Canadian to come back on championship number 2? We stay here with Christian LeBay, the 119 from Malwar Racing, heading up Eau Rouge and Radion now down the Kemmel Straight. You can see in front of him there is a side-by-side battle. That looks to be Quain and Bond for 9th position. The 2 Mustangs clashing heads as they head through Lacombe and Melmedy. His teammate, of course, Kevin Quain at Malwar Racing is looking to maintain solid top 10 points positions for the Canadian team on their debut to racing in the NLRL Sunday League. You can see right now Ben Cheeseman is right on the back of Dave Bond. We're going to go on board with that here. We'll go on board the perspective of Dave Bond, respectively fighting for 9th position ahead and defending on 10th position from behind. Dave Bond on his first race here in NLRL has really got his hands full. Currently defending for 10th, fighting for that 10th position against Ben Cheeseman, and in the same stroke fighting for 9th against Kevin Quain ahead of him. Right now, though, we'll focus on the defensive fight he's got in his hands to the careening McLaren of Ben Cheeseman from behind, rocking the colours of the official McLaren racing team there, black, blue and orange. Really got his hands full here. That McLaren is properly lit up over the second half of this race. Ben Cheeseman looking for a top 10 by the end of the opening round here to kick off his hopes of a championship title. To be within that top 10 consistently throughout the season, we've seen consistency is the absolute key for a championship success. Winning races is one thing, consistently being around the opportunity to win races is another thing, and that starts in the top 10. Quain now starting to drop into the iron sights of Bond here. We're now looking at a 3-man battle for 9th position as we go heading into lap 15. Bond is eyeing up Quain. Cheeseman is eyeing up Bond. Heading into turn 1. Cheeseman's to the inside on Bond. Quain is next in his iron sights here. We'll go on the dash cam as they are front to rear quarter. The 114 moves up to 10th position. Both of them now trying to fight for 9th. We'll go back more introspectively to the fight for 10th position between the McLaren and the Mustang of Dave Bond and Ben Cheeseman. Up the Eau Rouge and Radion, you can see just how much cornering capacity that McLaren has on the 2 Mustangs. Let's try and get on board here. Just briefly seeing the reinvigorated battle of Skeen and Abate. We want to try and go on board, though, with Ben Cheeseman, with McLaren, as we go heading down towards Lacombe and Melmedy. He's done 1 Mustang on this lap. Can he do a second as he heads out of Lacombe down to Melmedy? He's got a few more corners to try his luck there. Quain's looking vulnerable, heading down into Bruxelles. Is it too far away? No, it isn't. Not for Cheeseman, but I think it was there. Big contact. Cheeseman's just going to keep rolling. Is he going to try and let that position back in for Kevin Quain? Not now as he drops behind David Bond. Was that a disconnect? Did he leave the session after? I mean, fair enough. That's, you know, it's a honourable sacrifice, as they call it, like the samurai. But I think he just felt so bad about the move that he left. That's strange. Let's go on board with the Mustangs then. That's a free position opening up for Christian LeBay, ever closer to the opportunity at finishing in the top 10. His teammate right now fighting for 9th against Dave Bond. So we're back on board. Now the perspective of Kevin Quinn with Malwar Racing fighting for 9th. He's got his teammate Christian Lebay behind him in the 119. The 706 on debut has already had a few heads clashed, namely with Cheeseman. Now looks to clash heads with Bond. Further up the order, Abate now gets the line on De Bon. Skeen has got some way to go here. You can see he's really dropping away. The 696 had some trouble out of Blanchimont. What has gone wrong on board the 696 Mercedes of Ian Skeen? Couldn't have been anything too severe because he's not made an immediate leap to the pit lane, but Dave Bond does. There goes Quain up into 9th position. Is going to have to look potentially at either defending or allowing Lebay through. These are going to be team orders that affect things more than ever between Lebay and Quain. Or it could just be a case where amongst friends they're going to keep fighting and see who comes out on top here. An interesting dichotomy to say the least between Ford and Aston Martin. Bond then into the pits. That is precarious there. Do you really think that the car was damaged almost enough in the skirmish ahead of him between Quain and Cheeseman? We did see him pick up a little bit there through Bruxelles. Very bizarre move into the pits to say the least. There's Carmelo Abate. Now in a secure P6 for now. Ian Skeen drops behind Francois De Bon. Now down into 8th position. Lachok Richard in the number 19. Now up into the top 15 positions. He'll be happy with that on his debut. Lachok in the Porsche. One of 4, in fact, entered. Among them, Abate, Noah Haggard, and Maragnon as well. Actually, no, that's Malon Gray, not Maragnon. That's McLaren I'm thinking of. There it is, Maragnon. Alex Maragnon, to be specific. The number 387, a very nice colour scheme, almost Aston Martin-esque for that McLaren. Kyle Jenkins nearing around that top 10. He's got 2.5 seconds between himself and Christian Lebay if he's within hopes of being inside the top 10. Of course, we've seen him grace the top 10 quite a few times here. Ian Skeen in 8th position, off by 7th by 10.5 seconds, has still shared in an absolutely show-stopping drive there from the back of the grid to be inside the top 10. 20.5 minutes left to go. We'll see where things stack up when the checkered flag drops. Right now, 2.5 seconds between 2nd and 3rd. Jason Bush and Diman Ivanov. Tyler Vermack, number 5, still in 19th at the moment. Melvin Milliston leading the session by 6 seconds. So we're going to try and go back on board the fight between the two Malwar cars. Kevin Quain and Christian Lebay. Kyle Jenkins is closing the gap. It was last time 2.5 seconds. Now 1.5, dropping to under 1.5. Nearly dropping to under 1 of the 3 cars. He was 2 seconds faster in the last lap just gone. Christian Lebay may find himself very quickly having to prioritise a defensive fight for P10 as Kyle Jenkins is closing in and closing in fast in the 113. Right now, the way they're looking at it, it's a double top 10 finish for Malwar Racing on their debut. Quain and Lebay looking to secure the back of that top 10 on the 5th row. Kyle Jenkins looking to upset the balance of things between the two Canadians in the 113. Right behind them then with McLaren. Let's see if we can get an onboard then from the attacking car to be. Looking around here, Kyle Jenkins eyeing up a 2-car leap. 2 Malwar cars directly in front of him, 10th and 9th. We'll see where they stack up. Watching on board the 113 McLaren. You can see it's a coordinated drive through at the moment between the two Malwar cars. The 706 is almost leading the 119 round track, giving them some free tow. But for how much longer is this strategy going to work? Is Lebay going to take up a defensive stance for his teammate? What can he do against the McLaren? I think the McLaren's getting a little too overconfident there. It's got a little too close, started picking up some of the dirty air. Jenkins has had it relatively easy through the last 10 minutes to be up where he is now. He's 13 seconds ahead of Maragnon in the 387 down in 12th position. He is slowly moving into frame here for the fight of the top 10. So heading down into the bus stop chicane, very late on the brakes then, puts him directly in frame for the fight of 10th position. Kyle Jenkins is going to have to start coordinating his next overtake. You can see between the pair of them, it was almost dead on for times. 21.860 to a 21.660 between Quain and LeBay. LeBay was the faster of the two Maloir cars, but this one in particular, 21.180 by Kyle Jenkins, puts him the fastest of the three by over, well, just around actually half a second to the Aston Martin in front of him. See Jenkins having to get a bit of a cheeky leap there over Rouge and Radion. Too many of them, and the stewards are going to have words, and not nice ones to say the least. So heading down the Kemmel Straight, he's now in the slipstream of the Aston Martin. Kyle Jenkins, what can he have a go at doing here for 10th position? Right in front of him, last season's champion Christian LeBay. In front of him, his teammate Kevin Quain, newcomer to the season and for Maloir Racing. We'll have a look around the field here to see where our other battles could be coming from. Right now, the closest as of current is that between Jenkins and LeBay here for 10th position, just hovering around 1 second between the McLaren and the Aston Martin as they go heading through the middle sector. This race has gone by remarkably quick. We're nearly down to the last quarter of an hour of racing. We'll get a recount of our standing order here as things look to change shortly. 0.3 of a second between LeBay and Quain. They could be now surfing off of each other's line to try and get away from Jenkins. It's a rather crafty move between teammates, looking to help one another out, and also a little bit of friendly racing between good friends. The 119 and the 706 are really giving each other that much needed speed boost. That's a cunning strategy. We do have a few team entries here. Of course, K1 Esports, the most prominent among them at the moment. I think it's around 5 or 6 cars associated with the team. The 696 is into the pit lane. The 666 is what I was looking at, sorry, which is a stricken Robertson down at turn 12. We're just looking here, LeBay and Quain nearly side by side. That could invite Jenkins in very shortly. We'll go back on board with this battle in a moment's time. Dave Bond has a drive-through penalty. We just saw there from Axel Cassier's perspective as Ben Cheeseman lines up behind him. Bond is next in his iron sights to Bond. 3.7 seconds from Abate in 6th. Quain and LeBay, we're going to go now on board what is definitely the fight for 9th position. This is the perspective of the 706 Ford Mustang of Kevin Quain, heading down through Eau Rouge and Radion. His teammate Christian LeBay right on his tail in the Aston Martin, and trailing the pair of them is the 113 McLaren of Kyle Jenkins. Heading round turn 6 we go. 3 cars in all, a real symphony of sound here. 5.4 litre V8 up against 6 litre V12. That is a proper sound mixture. Just the sonorous cry of that V12 up against the rumble of that V8. It is a sight to behold. It sounds like the Qatar 1812 kilometers for those of you watching World Endurance Championship. That sound difference between, best example I could give, the Corvette and the Valkyrie. Not the Corvette and the Valkyrie, the Cadillac and the Valkyrie. It is just a royal tone that these two share, and it looks to be side by side now for 9th. LeBay's to the inside, heading to turn 12. What can he have a go at doing on his teammate here in the 706? The Mustang taking the long way around as we go heading around turn 12. Quain's just a little bit out of road there, but he's going to run it the long way around across LeBay. That nearly ended up in some contact between the pair of them. Very nail-biting stuff here. LeBay's looking for a switchback cut off across the nose by the 706. Right behind them, though, you can see lingering in the background the green McLaren of Kyle Jenkins, hunting the pair of them for the position Quain currently holds. He's defending 9th from both his teammate and the approaching 113. Just get a listen in on that sound. That is really something. So round Blanchimont we go. right on top of one another now. All three of these drivers looking to have a go for 9th position. Heading to the bus stop chicane. LeBay's going later on the brakes to try and run his teammate around the outside. Just finds enough space on the inside at turn 20. Where do they find themselves on the run down towards La Source? Quain still got the run. Right behind him is LeBay. As to is Kyle Jenkins, nearly side by side between all three of them to La Source. It's going to be side by side between the two Maloir cars going down into turn 1. Jenkins trying to follow LeBay's line to get past Quain. Neither of them succeeding out of La Source. LeBay's got a very solid run. Is he going to think of the idea of going side by side with Quain on the run up Eau Rouge and Radion? No one would dare. Heading up through turns 3, now 4 and 5. It is absolutely brilliant stuff here in the last 15 minutes of racing. And it looks to be coming to a head here. Kyle Jenkins taking some grass with him as he nearly puts himself 3 abreast. LeBay, though, is side by side and alongside his teammate down towards Lecombe we go. LeBay's up into 9th. Quain's down to 10th. Looks to take things back here at Melmedy. Has a very good look at it. Can't find the room. Jenkins harassing for position there in 11th. Looking for 10th in his own respect. But Quain's diving for 9th position. Can't outrun his teammate in the braking zones. Christian LeBay has snatched that one off him. Very nicely done between all three of them, but we're far from over. LeBay may be up into 9th. Quain may be having a look to defend for 10th. It is so close between all three of these drivers here at the back of the top 10. It really could go any which way between either of these three. Looking around here, Dave Bond in 15th, looking to unlap himself from Alex Marignon in 12th position. Francois Debon closing in on Carmelo Abate. Could there be a battle between these two by the end of this round? One does wonder. Platchok Richard in the number 19 is 5.3 seconds from Marian Stoyanov's Aston Martin in 13th. There could be that fight between them in the near future. Right now, the closest battle we have that comes to mind is Jenkins v Quain and LeBay. It's been a very grand battle. We started off last season with LeBay being in a 3-man battle. That was with, I think it was Tremblay and Abate. Right now it's Quain and Jenkins that become the other two parts of his 3-man battle saga. Something that LeBay is almost renowned for is his capacity to get into those larger battles and end up coming out on top. A real cunning drive by the Aston Martin. Now we're looking at the fight for 10th here between Jenkins and Quain. 0.7 of a second as they round La Source. Jenkins has a very good exit of turn 1. Puts himself 0.4 of a second. We'll stay on board with the McLaren as we go down to Eau Rouge and Radion. Let's see what Jenkins can do in the fight for 10th. Cutting across there. He's had to lift off, otherwise the stewards will penalise him. It's a drive-through penalty, though, for Kevin Quain. So, miraculously, of the two there, because Quain, I think he kept the throttle pinned after taking a line off track, the stewards have struck him down. That's a bizarre one indeed. A very, very bizarre... a bizarre choice by the stewards on ACC to do so. Of course, it's an automated system here, unlike iRacing, which can be done manually. That is bizarre. Lifting off the throttle means you aren't gaining time, but he's kept the throttle pinned, not realising it was track limits, and I think that was one too many for Kevin Quain. And that's a drive-through penalty. Not the way to end this round, but definitely gave it a very good go. We hope to see more performances like that out of Quain this season. It was a brilliant defence against his teammate for some time. Gave it a very good go. Things are looking to go by the wayside here, but everyone's got to have their bad races before they get through to the good ones. That's how I think of it. Onwards and upwards, really. They can only go from here on circumstances like this, and it will be a free move, basically, for Kyle Jenkins now. I wouldn't even consider this the fight for 10th position. It's been practically handed to him on a plate after that drive-through penalty came through. 8 minutes left to go then. 8 minutes 40, you want to be precise. Kyle Jenkins will be moving up into that top 10. Very well done by the McLaren, putting himself in the right place at the right time, just keeping himself out of trouble long enough to see his rise into the top 10. Ian Skeen, 7.3 seconds from Francois Debon. He has closed that time down since the last time we've seen him. Is it going to be enough, though, per lap for him to be in a battle by the end of this race? Really, the odds are quite uncertain, but Skeen has definitely earned the title of driver of the day today just because of that heroic drive from the back of the field to put himself inside the top 10. Was looking towards the top 5 before his incident, but has nonetheless wowed expectations today. That is a royal drive by Ian Skeen in the Mercedes. Looking here, this is Marian Stoyanov. Will be finishing inside the top 15 on debut. That's a grand drive by the Bulgarian in the Aston Martin. 1 of 3 for the Bulgarian GT team. The bullet-clad livery of that Aston Martin. A very pretty livery indeed. I've not seen that one before. Robertson also joining Quain in the drive-through penalty curse in the 666 BMW. Diman Ivanov, a new name to this competition, same as Jason Bush, share the podium right now. Newcomers to this series have really took the competition by storm. Melvin Milliston has been doing his homework in the off-season. He wasn't going to let another pole position curse rob him of a victory again. That BMW is absolutely gone. Right now, it could be the potential battle on the horizon here as we drop just under the 2-second bracket between Bush and Ivanov for a front row finish. Here in the next 7 minutes of racing, do keep an eye on that one. That gap continues to close down. It could be Lexus versus Aston Martin as we get down towards the end of round 1. Milliston, though, has commanded this grid by a whopping 6.7 seconds at the moment. He was not going to let another mistake from Season 1 take away his opportunity to win again. And he has had a real brutal drive in that BMW. Right behind him there is Scott Milbank down in 16th position. Wasn't the race to be for Milbank after a series of incidents. Is just going to finish outside the top 15. James Mason will share in a fantastic result, however. On the contrary, the number 413 inside the top 5 on round 1. Christian Lebay, last season's champion, inside the top 10 by 3.3 seconds to Kyle Jenkins. Kevin Quain now out of the equation as he takes his drive-through penalty. And that is the worst track, really, to get a drive-through on. The longest pit lane in ACC. Covers the entire span of the Grand Prix paddock. And then down the road here, if you watch on the right-hand side here from the perspective of Christian Lebay's 119 Aston Martin, you'll see just how long the pit lane runs. We're still going. You see that road there to the right-hand side of Eau Rouge and Radion. That's part of the pit lane run. You run all the way through there and you exit on the right-hand side of Radion. You actually join the track right about here on the right-hand side where the markings of the road are. That is how long the pit lane is. It is brutally long in its GT configuration. So, of all tracks to get drive-thrus on, this might be the most grueling. That's easily, in the heat of a big race, 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 positions lost over the span of one drive-through. The gap between Ivanov and Bush, 2.5 seconds, was briefly under the 2-second bracket as we headed in to the end of this last lap gone on lap 22 as we started lap 23. Bush, though, has had a very strong drive on debut for Lexus. Same story for Diman Ivanov. Of the two, he was faster by 0.6 of a second on that last lap gone, a 2:18.90. It is a mighty car, that Lexus. Every single time, it's an absolute jaw-dropper. Of course, the Lexus RCF has an available Evo package, and that came through its endeavours in the IMSA Sports Car Championship in the United States, where it is still a dominant face of the sport in the GT category. But it's a rare sight to see, and I'm noticing recently these more unorthodox choices of car are starting to creep back in. Yes, he's giving us the lights, he knows he's on camera. But we've seen this creep back in over the course of the last couple of months, and it started really, in my mind, with, I guess I could say best examples would be Robert Ogan in VSR with the Lexus, the same one you're seeing on screen at the moment, and Christian Lebay with the Aston Martin. And now we're starting to see people follow suit in more unorthodox choices. I'd say another driver who spearheaded this would be... well, among the ones that I know, at least, I'm sure there are plenty who have done it before, but among the drivers I could recount here on TRTN, I've seen spearhead this movement across the series we have the pleasure of covering, would also be Hayden Puttock. He's gone through a few unorthodox choices, moving over to Honda, was briefly going to drive for Bentley as well. Right now, in the modern day, we're seeing this renaissance of new and wacky choices of car come to fruition in the sort of world of NLRL and in the world of VSI and a lot of the series we cover, there's these more interesting choices, drivers experimenting, pushing the envelope out. We've now come to understand the reason why Bush has been given the lights so many times. It's because of Milbank directly in front of him there, the number 44 BMW being signalled to move out of the way. Diman Ivanov just under 3 seconds away, despite that gap being closer beforehand. Bush is on the warpath here. He's on the final push stint before the end of this race. He knows at this current rate he won't be able to catch Milliston unless there's a big incident for the leading number 68. Bush is going to give it a very good go, though, all the way to the line. He's got functionally one more lap in it here, maybe two at a push. Getting down towards the start-finish line there. That last lap, 2:18.825. Ivanov 2:18.942. So Bush still gaining time to the Aston Martin in third place. Another driver to have wowed on debut, also inside the top 5, Axel Cassier, who shared in that battle with James Mason. That was really cinematic stuff between the pair of them in the opening 10 to 15 minutes of racing. It was brilliant stuff to behold. Plenty of new names, and get to know them quick, because I get the feeling we're going to see some real showstoppers out of a few of these guys over the course of this season. I get a good feeling about this, and it's looking to be a very solid follow-up to Season 1. Francois Dubon as well has also had a very strong opening race here. He's still 2.5 seconds from Carmelo Abate, not too far away from having a go at the championship runner-up for 6th position. He's got 1.5 minutes left in the race to get that done. Kevin Quain, despite that drive-through penalty, finishes in the top 15 by the looks of things. And despite that drive-through, had a very strong race up until that point. I wouldn't say that drive-through is an indicator of what his performance will be like over the course of the season. Take everything that have happened before that point to be your real indicator. Kevin Quain is a solid pack fighter. Do expect to see more performances out of him in the near future. Same story with this one. Dave Bond, even though he made that preemptive jump to the pit lane, he's also had a very strong opening performance despite that 14th place finish on the horizon for him. Carmelo Abate in his first drive with Porsche has really wowed expectations as well. So there is plenty to follow up with in the next round at Donington this coming Sunday. There is a lot to discuss coming out of round 1. Right now, we're going to be rounding out this opening round of the championship with win number 2 historically for Melvin Milliston. His last win came in round 4 of Season 1. Will be kicking off this championship with a win here in Spa after a dominant lead and pole position. Really, no one could have took it off him today. Let's go and find then Melvin Milliston. He's got one more lap in it here. We're on the last lap now. Behind him is Latchok Richard in the number 19. Jason Bush is 6.2 seconds away. So we are now on towards the final lap. No more time left in it. We're on with Milliston for the time being as we head down through Eau Rouge and Radion. One final run then uphill. We'll have another look around the pits before the end of this race, around the paddock I should say, before the end of this race. Just running over Eau Rouge and Radion there. A bit of a cut there by the BMW. Down the Kemmel for the last time. So having a look around the field then, to sort of wrap things up on this opening round of the championship, there is a lot to behold coming into round 2 of Season 2 next Sunday. Plenty to discuss, and it has been a grand race for all, and a very interesting podium to say the least. An interesting top 5 and an interesting top 10. Plenty of new names involved. Where's Francois Devant going? He could be accidentally handing 8th position to Carmelo Abate and 9th place to Kyle Jenkins. Is it a fuel concern for the Mustangs here that's forced him into the pit lane? Ian Skeens up to 7th then. Driver of the day at the moment, that 696 Mercedes. Very bizarre stuff then for Ford at the end of that race. Let's just see quickly. Francois Debont, as he continues down, you can see that time on your left-hand side there between Lebay and Debont start to drop away rapidly. The Belgian could be in serious trouble for position here. At the end of round 1, it could be bitterly outside of the top 10 at the worst for Debont. So we can hear the approach of Christian Lebay and Kyle Jenkins in the Aston and the McLaren. We're just going to hear that V12 Sauron pass. So Christian Lebay will find his way up to 8th. Kyle Jenkins will find his way up to 9th. What a bizarre turn of events then. So we'll go back on board with Melvin Milliston. What is there to say that hasn't already been shown to you clear as crystal about this man today? He has shared in a brilliant show-stopping performance to kick off the first round of this championship. Down towards the line, Melvin Milliston will be the round winner here in the opening race of Season 2. It is a show-stopping performance by Milliston, to say the least. He'll be absolutely ecstatic with that. His first win since round 4 last season. He is second to no one today. Absolutely no one. There's Jason Bush giving it grand over the line there. His first podium on debut in this season. The first of many, if I had to guess. Jason Bush has put on a grand show in second place. That number 33 Lexus, keep a close eye on that one this season. I doubt this is the last time we see of him. Diman Ivanov on a very strong opener for Aston Martin, makes third. A very intrinsic, all front engine podium. BMW, Lexus and Aston, dominant in Spa. Axel Cassier, 4th for Ford. James Mason makes 5th for K1 Esports BMW across the line. The 413, I should say, makes 5th. Carmelo Abate, last season's runner-up, makes a grand 6th ahead of his championship rival from last season, Christian Lebay. In between the pair of them is the driver of the day today, Ian Skeen, on with Mercedes in the 696. Started from the back, it is up to 7th. What a drive. Carmelo Abate, of course, finished ahead of this driver here, Christian Lebay, being followed closely by Kyle Jenkins. 1.2 seconds was the last observed gap. We'll see where things stack up as they get down to the bus stop chicane for the last time today. Looks to be 8th for Lebay. At the last possible moment, Francois Debont drops down to 11th from that pit lane run. That was a bizarre change of fate for the Belgian. But for the Canadian here, it's 8th position, 9th for Kyle Jenkins. And for Alex Maragnon, looks to be 10th. And that is a very strong end for him. You can see that drivers are they're leaving there, which is shortening the list. We'll get an overall look by the end of this race. Alex Maragnon will make 10th position. Francois Debont reluctantly outside of the top 10 because of that very, very last second pit stop. But what a win today by Melvin Milliston in the number. It was the number 68, signed up as the 997, entered as the 68. So very strange change for numbers there. But what an all-star podium as well. Jason Bush in second with Lexus. Diman Ivanov third with Aston Martin. Axel Cassier just into the top 5 there. 4th with Ford. James Mason in 5th with BMW. All front-engine cars inside that top 5. The next car down, rear-engined from Carmelo Abate. There you have it. Milliston, Bush, Ivanov, Cassier, Mason, Abate, Skeen, Lebay, Jenkins, Maragnon, Debont, Stoyanov, Richard, Bond, Quain, Milbank, Cheeseman, Vermack, Robertson make our 19 positions. Hayden Prodger, sadly, was a DNF with Nissan and was among several cars to DNF that race. It was a great race for some, not a great race for others. But what a way to kick off this season at hand. Do look forward to the next 9 weeks of racing we have here on NLRL in Season 2 of the Sunday League. I thoroughly look forward to seeing it further on in the next round, next Sunday at Donington Park for round 2 of the championship. That's all from us then today on TRTN. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight. We hope to see you on our earliest next broadcast will be next Wednesday at Alton Park for VSR Phoenix Season 7 Round 11. If you're joining us for the NLRL Sunday League, our next broadcast comes up same time next week at Donington Park. Until then, take care and good night.